Hi, this is Professor Adrina Grigorian, and today we're going to discuss ancient Egyptian art. To go over today's lesson, I just wanted to mention that we will first start off with an introduction to ancient Egypt, and then go into ancient Egyptian burial sites, and wrap up with our final thoughts. Background on Egypt. Egypt existed 3,000 years under relatively unchallenged self-rule. It was protected by its geography. It had the long Nile River going through the center, at the same time surrounded by mountainous cliffs, protecting it geographically from invaders. The Nile River also provided hospitable weather patterns. Specifically, the stability of the Nile River flooding encouraged the development of rich, unified culture in addition to great agriculture. Stone was also plentiful and easily transported via the Nile. In comparison to ancient Mesopotamia, fewer artifacts survived from Mesopotamia. Trade was also essential to Mesopotamians, but it allowed and encouraged conflict and invasion. It was impractical and impossible to protect from outside invaders and influences, as opposed to Egypt. And finally, city-states in Mesopotamia were unable to unify. Let's quickly go over rectilinear art. Egyptian art, similar to Mesopotamian art at the time, was focused on rectilinear, where things exist in straight lines, as we can see here in this image. The body is faced towards us in terms of its shoulders, but the face and the arms and the legs are all facing to the side. But you could still trace lines with the instruments and the tools held by this figure. All of it composes into rather straight linear lines, and therefore is rectilinear art. And Egypt at this time followed the same standards. A little bit about ancient Egyptian dynasty. As we can see here, ancient Egyptian civilization lasted for more than 3,000 years and showed a stunning level of continuity. That is more than 15 times the age of the United States. And consider how often our culture shifts. As recently as 2003, there was no Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. While today we consider the Greco-Roman period to be in the distant past, it should be noted that Cleopatra's reign is closer to our own time than it was to the construction of the pyramids of Giza. And it took humans nearly 4,000 years to build anything, taller than the Great Pyramid. Contrast that span to modern times. We get excited when a record lasts longer than a decade. Let's get into ancient Egyptian burial sites, which will be the architecture we're going to discuss for today's class. There are 4 specific types of tombs or burial sites Egyptian leaders and noblemen used. In the first early dynastic to first dynasty period, there were mastabas, which were flat roofs on each of the tombs. Then followed by stepped pyramid, which is what it sounds like, steps leading up to a point. 4th dynasty had a bent pyramid, and by the later 4th dynasty, we have the pyramid we see and know of today. Here's an image of a mastaba, where you see the flat roof. The burial site is inside. Here is an example of a stepped pyramid where, like the name suggests, there are steps leading to the point. And the point to the top creates the image of becoming closer to the sun, which is the god they worshipped. Here we see a bent pyramid where the sides of the pyramid slant forward to meet at the peak. And finally, we have the pyramids of Giza, a collection of the largest pyramids right outside of Cairo, where there are pharaohs buried as well as noblemen and queens. There were about 2,300,000 blocks used to make Khufu's pyramid in Giza. Here we can see a gentleman standing next to one of the blocks to get an idea of how big these stones were. It's estimated that about 20 to 100,000 people built the Great Pyramids. They worked 3 months a year for 20 years, and it was understood that the work was honorable. In conclusion, we see that Egyptian history is very great in terms of its civilizations. They were able to gather many groups of people to build huge structures that were meant to be lasting legacy for their reign. Until today, we're able to appreciate them. Thank you very much, and see you for the next class.